So, childhood dreams as a kid, I always wanted to be a soldier. I always wanted to do martial arts. I've done both. So, with the martial arts, I suppose I like people my age would have watching. People my age would have watching the likes of The War of Mars and Monkey Magic, you know, all that type of Bruce Lee films. So, a good friend of mine who trains me at the moment, Glenn Murphy's mother, brought me to a judo club. I thought it was a karate club I was joining, and that was around 1979, 1980ish, when I was a young pup. So I took up martial arts from then.
Who in that club brought you on or looked after you, took you under their wing?
That club was a very was a very competitive, rough and tough club, the Dagohan Judo Club at the time. So there was a lot of different levels in the club, and we had a couple of Olympians and stuff in the gym, and some really good judo players. And once I started it, I sort of stick with something I start, but you know, I still do a bit of judo now. But I suppose the people in the gym at the time, it was more my parents, to be honest with you. They're the ones that kept bringing me, my mother and father, you know. They're the ones that got up in the mornings and brought me training, or in the evenings. So it was them more than that set the standard, that set the direction for me, you know.
And how long did it take for you to figure this is something you love to do?
I think in Ireland we don't accept sort of martial arts as a job, or you know, everyone thinks it's a hobby, but it's not. It's a lifetime. Like, my whole life is consumed by martial arts and MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, judo, wrestling. You know, we're on a wrestling course one week. Next week I'm over here teaching Jiu-Jitsu. The week after an MMA event. So it's something that I never thought I would be able to do, and I'm lucky enough to do. So I'm, I suppose, living the dream. I sacrificed a lot to do this job. I had a good job in the army, and you know, with a pension and stuff, and I gave it all up to give this a go, and I'm happy I did.
And the transition from the judo to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, how did that happen?
Yeah, for me, it was around 98, 99. I was sort of still competing in the judo, and I was trying to qualify for the Sydney Olympics, and I had a few knocks and bruises, and the support wasn't there in the country. That you know, you hadn't got the technical support, or you hadn't got the coaching staff sort of to push you on. And at the same time, MMA was sort of popping on the scene, and we were doing jiu-jitsu thinking we were doing MMA, and doing MMA thinking we were doing jiu-jitsu, and you know, watching a couple of DVDs and stuff. I just met up with a nice bunch of guys, and you know, John Cabinet, Dave Roach, Dave Jones, Peter Levy up the north. You know, it was a good bunch of guys that sort of got together, and it was something new, and it was a good direction to go in, you know.
And now, like, how have you seen it change since you started now?
The change I see is that at the very, very early start, the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe 2005, it was everyone was learning, and there was no bullshit, there was no egos. No one gave two shits who you trained with or where you trained, and you turn up to an MMA fight, you stand beside someone, you look the same size, get into the ring there, or get into the cage, whatever it was, and it was friendly and it was fun and it was enjoyable. But I felt that with Jiu-Jitsu and MMA coming into Ireland, that we lost the whole martial arts part of it, you know. Yeah. We lost the whole, it is a martial art and it is a discipline, and it's not two lads in the fucking street knocking shit out of each other. It's a disciplined sport, and I think we lost that. So with me and Team Ryano, we try and bring that in. So we'll bow at the start of every class, we'll no shoes near the mats and short fingernails, the basic things you're taught as a kid on the judo mat or on the jiu-jitsu mat or any martial art. And I think that has to come in. A big thing I find about Ireland is guys get a blue belt, which is great, and think they know everything. Or guys have 2 amateur MMA fights, think they know everything, open the gym up and try and teach. People get injured and people get hurt, you know. I can understand back in the day, in the late 90s, a blue belt was a big thing then. There's probably 5 of us in the country, you know. But we had all come from good backgrounds. We'd all had come from, I was competing at elite level in the judo, and guys were like, Paul Cow's over the gym, he was boxing. So there was guys coming from a disciplined sport, but we were always learning, you know. And I find that martial arts end of it has to get back more into the sport, you know.
Where do you see it going in the next few years for you and for the sport?
Well, for me, I used to get very, not worried, but trying to get involved and start associations and committees, and I just don't have time now. My own team is building. I'm busy with the UFC guys, I'm busy with the jiu-jitsu guys. I had a little competition last week up in Belfast with my own affiliates. I just under 100 kids on the mat. I'd probably the same in adults. So I don't have time for, you know, associations and committees, but I will support them if they want to do anything like that. I think we're going in a good direction. On the MMA scene, we've actually set up a committee under the Wrestling Association. We've since been recognised by IMAF. We work hard at Safe MMA to make sure shows are safe and you know. So we're going in a good direction. The Jiu-Jitsu is a little bit falling a little bit behind. Where we did have the association at the start, nobody wants to put the work in. Everybody just wants to do their own thing. So I think that has to catch up a little bit. But I think MMA and all martial arts in Ireland is in a good, healthy position at the moment. No problem.
Excellent. Great stuff.